This is a really difficult question. The question of the morality of the God of the Old Testament, but by which I mean that there are verses in the Old Testament that raise ethical questions. And when you read through the Old Testament, read it all the way through, certain things come up that are disturbing. In particular, most specifically, when God called for the extermination of certain peoples. Now, it only happened in certain contexts. It was not in always. It only happened in short periods of history. But where God commanded the people of Israel to utterly wipe out their enemies, not just the combatants, but the women and even the children. For example, Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2, when the Lord your God gives them over to you and you defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. You shall make no covenant with them and show no mercy to them. How could this possibly be right? We would certainly condemn people who did this today, rightly so. If Israel killed Palestinians and in the process intentionally killed the women and the children, even infants, the whole world would condemn them, rightly so. When a Palestinian terrorist goes to indiscriminately kill Israeli children and women and men, we rightly condemn them. So what made it right at that time? Whole books have been written on this. Show Them No Mercy, the slaughter of the Canaanites, presenting different views on it. Or Dr. Paul Copan's book, Is God a Moral Monster? Or Dr. David Lamb's book, God Behaving Badly. And these scholars do a great job addressing these issues. Let me try to give you the very, very short answer. Genesis, the 15th chapter, indicates that several hundred years had to go by before the guilt of the Amorites, the guilt of the Canaanites, the guilt of those inhabiting the land would be so severe that it would merit them being wiped out. That's the first thing to understand. In other words, there was great patience exerted by God. There was wickedness in the land. God keeps referring to the people as wicked, 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 wicked. Atrocities were taking place. Children were being sacrificed in the fire to idols. All types of perversions were being believed and practiced and things like this. But yet God waited until the wickedness reached a point that it merited wiping them out. That's the first thing to understand. And it would be like wiping out ISIS today. It would be merited. It would be right. It would be just. You say, but what about the women? Well, the fact is these women were entrenched in this way of life. These women could easily be corrupting forces. And this is the large picture you need to look at. It's like cutting off a limb to save a body. God raised up Israel so that through Israel, the Messiah could come and bring salvation to the world. Without Israel, there's no Messiah, there's no salvation. So the whole world is damned to hell forever unless there's an Israel raised up through whom the Messiah can come and bring redemption to the world. Because of that, if Israel began to intermarry with pagans, if Israel began to bring in those who were raised in these environments, soon enough Israel would be straying. Soon enough God would have to destroy Israel and there'd be no Savior and there'd be no redemption. That's how serious this is. You say, but what about the little children? It's agonizing. It's difficult. I can only say this. Number one, these little children would be with the Lord forever as little children who themselves were innocent. Deuteronomy 139 points to that. Number two, we don't know what was in these kids being raised and what was in them through being the children of their parents and how much they had been exposed to various things. And because, like I say, if Israel doesn't survive as a nation, there is no salvation for the world. Something very, very radical had to take place. It's difficult, but when we understand it rightly, and the same God calling for compassionate treatment of others and civil treatment of others and just treatment of others throughout the Bible, calling for justice for the poor, for the orphan, we have to know this is a compassionate and just God who had to act radically at one particular point in history.